Hi, welcome to Google. My name is David White, and I'm going to talk to you today about running your Windows workloads on Google Cloud. I'm a solution manager here at Google in the Infrastructure Modernization group. And before joining Google, I've spent most of my career as a COO, CIO, VP of IT. Essentially, I've spent more of my time as the customer than on this side of the table. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about why customers are running their Microsoft workloads on GCP, talk a little bit about Microsoft licensing options in GCP, and then we'll talk about phase transformation of your Microsoft workloads and your Microsoft applications. So the first question that we often hear is, why on earth would anybody bring Microsoft workloads to Google Cloud? And I think this, more than anything else, answers it best. Urs Horso, our Senior Vice President of Engineering and Technical Infrastructure, we're committed to making GCP a first-class platform for running Microsoft workloads. And if you look back over the last 5 years since he made that statement, Google has continued to invest in optimizing and modernizing and bringing in the technologies and tools that allow you to bring your enterprise Microsoft workloads into Google Cloud. Today, thousands of our customers are running Windows workloads in Google Cloud, amounting to billions of core hours every year of Windows workloads. Some of our recent customers, including Travix and Volution, and most recently TELUS International, talk about how they have brought their Windows workloads into Google and what a great decision it's been. So why do people want to bring Microsoft workloads into Google? First and foremost, Google has phenomenal infrastructure. Between our underlying compute capabilities, the speed of our storage, the robustness of our network, and the security that we bake into everything, Google always wants to make sure that we provide the best for our customers that we can. Google also preferences giving customers choice. We want to be able to provide an array of offerings so that customers can choose which different pieces are going to fit their solutions best. And Google, first and foremost, is committed to modernization and to an open platform. We are devoted to the open source community, and we are the innovators behind things like Kubernetes, TensorFlow, GKE, and other tools that are commonly used today throughout a variety of clouds. So let's talk a little bit about our three-staged approach. First is to migrate. So we help you with a lift and shift, moving from your on-premises data center into Google Cloud, migrating your VMs into our Google Compute Engine, and potentially even upgrading those versions of the operating system where possible. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. This is using our Migrate for Compute Engine tool. By doing this, we work with you to get the right balance of your bring your own licensing capabilities versus pay-as-you-go licensing. We help you take advantage of Google technology such as CPU over commit and custom VM shapes. And we allow you to leverage suspending and resuming your VMs so that you can save on costs when things aren't actually needed. Next, we'll talk a little bit about our modernization opportunities. These are the ways in which we can help you bring your Windows applications into containers and still be in Windows, or taking advantage of our fully managed service offerings like Cloud SQL or Managed Active Directory. And all of this results in a greater efficiency, tighter bin packing, and better cost optimization. Lastly, we can talk about how we can help you transform your applications, moving to more open standards like Postgres or MySQL, or moving your .NET on Windows into .NET Core, or lastly, taking your .NET applications and containerizing them for ease of management and ease of scale. Where do I go? As I said, Google wants to provide you a variety of choices so that you can choose per workload what the best destination is for your Windows applications. First choice is the Google Compute Engine. This is our standard Google VM environment where we can help you bring your on-prem VMs using our Migrate for Compute Engine. If there are applications that it makes more sense to stay in VMware, we can help you stay in VMware with our VMware as a service offering. Allows you to leverage native VMware tools like HCX to do your migrations, and helps you move those workloads from VMware on-premises into VMware in Google Cloud, where you can still take advantage of all of the Google Cloud features and services. Lastly, for those items that are appropriate to containerize, we can help you with our Migrate for Anthos tool, to take your .NET applications that are running in VMs today and actually put them into Windows containers running in Kubernetes. Similarly, for Microsoft SQL, you have the opportunity to continue running your own Microsoft SQL on Windows in our Google Compute Engine in a virtual machine, or we can help you migrate to SQL for Linux, thus eliminating the need to pay for the underlying operating system of Windows because Linux is free. Or if you want to get out of the business of managing your own SQL server, we can help you move to Cloud SQL, where it's a fully managed service offering and you just need to tap in. So a little bit of an overview on licensing with a quick disclaimer. This is guidance at best. Please make sure that you check the details of your individual Microsoft licensing. So essentially, there are two models for how you can take care of your Microsoft licenses within Google Cloud. The first is very easy and straightforward. It's just pay as you go. If you'd like to deploy a Microsoft Windows Server in Google Cloud, when you're creating that VM, you select the Windows Server image, and that image will not only have the Windows Server operating system, it will also have the necessary licensure. And that gets billed on a per second basis. You spin it up, the billing starts. You spin it down, the billing stops. Similarly for SQL Server, if you'd like to select one of our Windows images that has SQL Server already installed, we can charge you per minute for the time that SQL Server is up. And then when that SQL Server is down, the billing stops. This is particularly useful for test or dev or staging environments that don't need to run 24/7, that you want to be able to bring up and bring down. Similarly, for other Microsoft applications like SharePoint or Exchange, we leverage our third-party partners that are able to provide images and pay-as-you-go licensing and cost. For our BYO licenses, we offer our sole tenant nodes, which we'll discuss in a moment. Your eligibility to bring your own license will still depend on your Microsoft licensure. But where you are entitled to bring your licenses, our sole tenant nodes allow you the place to do that with dedicated hardware. SQL Server, by the terms of your software assurance, you have the ability to bring your SQL Server licenses wherever you'd like, as well as SharePoint and Exchange and other Microsoft applications. This is the use case for 24/7 applications where you need to keep them running all the time. So some people have discussed October 2019 when it comes to Microsoft licenses. There was a change based on October 2019 for licenses purchased after that versus licenses purchased before that. For Windows Server licenses purchased before October of 2019, as long as these licenses were purchased prior to that or associated with larger agreements that were created prior to that, you should be able to bring those Windows licenses to GCP within the guardrails, within the boundaries of your Microsoft license. For SQL Server, as long as you have software assurance, you're able to continue to bring those licenses over to Google. In order to make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, we've engaged the services of a third-party company called Software One. Software One is a premier partner of both Google and Microsoft and has provided us prescriptive guidance on the details of Microsoft licensure. And as you can see, in both cases, Windows Server and SQL Server, there is likely a path to be able to bring those licenses over. One of the requirements for being in compliance with Microsoft licensing is the ability to generate a report of the operating system and the servers that they're running on. Google takes that complexity away by providing these reports for you on demand. As I mentioned, sole tenant nodes. Sole tenant nodes mean that you have sole control over the underlying hardware for the virtual machines that you're deploying. You can mix and match Linux and Windows VMs on those sole tenant nodes. But in addition, you can flip a switch that allow you to trigger a CPU overcommit. Essentially what that means is you make it appear as though there's twice as many CPUs available on that host. And for those applications that are not overly resource intensive, it allows you to pack twice as many VMs onto that same hardware. So you can get much more cost-effective use of that underlying hardware that you're now using. Custom VMs are an outstanding tool for SQL Server. So SQL Server is licensed by CPU, but is very, very RAM hungry. For many cloud providers, what that means is in order to get the additional memory that SQL wants, you have to increase your vCPU count, meaning you're not only being charged for the CPU cores, but you're also having to pay licensure for SQL and Windows for those additional CPUs that you really don't need. With custom VMs in GCP, we allow you to scale that RAM and CPU core separately so that you can create that custom shape that's going to give you the optimal amount of RAM for your SQL Server or other applications, while still not having to overpay for CPUs that you don't actually need. Windows Server 2008 is another topic that we frequently hear from our customers. Windows Server 2008 R2 has gone end of life, which means that Microsoft will no longer provide security updates or patches for it without having to purchase potentially expensive extended security updates. Migrate for Compute Engine allows you to take those 2008 R2 servers from your data center and in the process of migration, actually upgrade them in flight so that when they land in GCE, they land as 2012 servers, which is a fully supported operating system. That is provided at no cost to our customers. By using the different tools and technology that Google provides, optimizing your per second billing, being able to shape the custom VMs, taking advantage of preemptable VMs. So for those workloads that just need episodic access to compute, you can spin them up and spin them down at a greatly reduced price. We also have an ongoing recommendation system where you can see at a VM by VM level what the recommendations are for scaling up or scaling down based on your actual utilization of those VMs, allowing you to right-size your spend and right-size your utilization of resources. Let's talk a little bit now about modernizing. So some of the ways that we help you modernize around SQL. By moving to SQL on Linux, for example, you remove the underlying need to license the Windows operating system. By moving to Managed SQL, you don't have to pay the SQL license costs at all because all of that is managed within our Cloud SQL offering. And by moving that responsibility of management, we may even be able to help you move from enterprise to standard to web. And as you can see, moving from server enterprise to SQL Server standard can be a tremendous cost savings. Being able to move all the way to SQL Server web can be a phenomenal cost savings. Windows Server containers in GKE. This is our ability to support Windows containers that can either be spun up from scratch or can come over as a result of our Migrate for Anthos tool that can pick up your VMs from your data center and deliver them as containers in Kubernetes. One of the best advantages of containerizing these applications is license cost. With your Microsoft licenses, once the underlying VM host has been licensed for the operating system, you can deploy as many containers on top of that operating system as the hardware will support. So again, this provides much better bin packing, much greater efficiency, much more cost-effective use of the resources you're already paying for. Our managed service offering for Active Directory allows you to get out from under the burden of having to manage your Active Directory infrastructure and still be able to use it as the security and profiling tool that you want to be able to use it for. Typically, what we see when we sit down and we work with customers on optimizing their costs once they've moved their Microsoft workloads into GCP is we can see as much as a 50% cost savings by blending your BYO licenses and your pay-as-you-go licenses, by being able to take advantage of the CPU overcommit and using some of the other tools and technology that Google provides, which allows you to then take that savings and reinvest it in your transformation. This is where you really want to end up when all is said and done. This is moving into cloud native. This is moving into open source. This is what gives you the scalability and the flexibility that really underpin your digital transformation. So being able to move from SQL Server to Postgres or MySQL, or helping you migrate your .NET for Windows applications onto .NET Core that runs on Linux, or even just containerizing your .NET applications. So you can start making incremental steps towards containerization using our Google Kubernetes engine, or possibly even going into Anthos. Ultimately, we want to be able to partner with you to look at your Microsoft workloads and help you identify which applications should be retired, which ones can be migrated into GCP, such as third-party ISV applications, which internally created applications are easy rewrites, such as moving from .NET to .NET Core, or which ones are going to be more complicated, or that may yield better results by moving into things like serverless, through App Engine and Cloud Run, and then ultimately, what are the applications that you're just going to have to maintain until their functionality is completely replaced with other applications. So in summary, we want to help you start at the left with your Microsoft workloads and your Microsoft servers running in your on-premises location, lift and shift and migrate them into Google Cloud using our tools and technologies, working with you to optimize and get the right balance of spend for your compute and for your licensure, and then ultimately help you through your digital transformation into cloud native and open source. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you in the future.